The Beatles, the Illuminati, and the dark underbelly of fame, the sacrifice of Paul McCartney. The Beatles are often remembered as the embodiment of the 1960s countercultural revolution, a group of 4 Liverpool lads who, through their innovative music and artistic vision, changed the world. However, beneath the shiny veneer of Beatlemania lies a shadowy narrative that has been whispered in conspiratorial circles for decades. It is the story of how the world's most famous band fell under the sinister influence of the Illuminati, were forced into mind control and occult practices, and how Paul McCartney, in a secret ritual, was sacrificed and replaced by a double named William Campbell. The rise of the Fab Four, a gateway to control. The Beatles' meteoric rise to fame in the early 1960s was unlike anything the world had ever seen. As Beatlemania swept across continents, young and old alike were mesmerized by their infectious melodies and charming personas. But behind the scenes, it is rumored that their rapid ascent was no accident. It is believed that the Illuminati, an ancient and powerful organization with designs to control global consciousness, saw in the Beatles the perfect vehicle for their agenda. To manipulate the masses, promote the worship of darkness, and infiltrate youth culture with subliminal mind control. The band's early songs were innocent enough, but as their fame grew, so too did the pressure to conform to the demands of shadowy figures pulling the strings. By 1966, the Beatles had abandoned their clean-cut image. Their music had taken a darker turn, and their albums were filled with cryptic symbols, backward audio, and surreal lyrics that some believed were encoded with hidden messages meant to brainwash the public. The turning point. Mind control and occult practices. The release of St. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in 1967 marked the point of no return for the Fab Four. Though widely hailed as a masterpiece, the album was riddled with occult symbolism and subliminal messages designed to influence listeners on a subconscious level. Some conspiracy theorists suggest that the title track itself is an ode to Aleister Crowley, a notorious figure in occult history, whose photograph even appears on the album cover. During the recording of St. Pepper's, it is said that the Illuminati subjected the Beatles to mind control programs similar to those used in the CIA's MKUltra experiments. The band members, already experimenting with LSD and other hallucinogens, were now under the influence of not only drugs, but also hypnotic suggestions meant to enslave their minds and coerce them into spreading messages of devil worship, hedonism, and rebellion. Rumors of occult rituals conducted behind closed doors began to circulate, with whispers that the group had been initiated into dark ceremonies involving sacrificial rites and demonic invocations. John Lennon's later song, Revolution 9, with its nightmarish soundscapes and reversed audio, was said to be an attempt to encode the horrific things they had witnessed. Yet Paul McCartney, known for being the most grounded of the group, began to resist. His reluctance to fully embrace the dark path was unacceptable to the powers that be. The death and replacement of Paul McCartney. The most infamous chapter of this dark conspiracy unfolded in 1966. According to the theory, Paul McCartney died in a tragic car accident that the public never heard about. But this was no ordinary accident. Conspiracists claim that McCartney's death was, in fact, a sacrificial ritual orchestrated by the Illuminati. Paul had become a liability. His refusal to surrender fully to their mind control and occult agenda marked him for elimination. After McCartney's death, the band and their handlers scrambled to find a replacement. Enter William Campbell, a man who had supposedly won a Beatles lookalike contest. Campbell was not only chosen for his physical resemblance to Paul, but he was also deeply embedded in the Illuminati's plans. With subtle cosmetic surgery, William became Paul McCartney, a perfect double who could carry on the band's mission without arousing suspicion. But the band members, now under strict control, began to leave subtle clues for those paying attention. St. Pepper's cover art, filled with strange faces and symbols, is said to depict a funeral for the real Paul. On Abbey Road, Paul is barefoot and out of step with the others, an indication of his role as the dead man. Even the lyrics to songs like A Day in the Life and I Am the Walrus contain hidden references to Paul's untimely demise. Subliminal messages and the agenda of the Illuminati. Once the new Paul was in place, the Illuminati's influence over the band became even more pronounced. With each new album, the Beatles' music grew darker, filled with subliminal messages meant to normalize occult practices and erode traditional morality. While fans remained blissfully unaware, the band's true mission was to act as cultural gatekeepers for the Illuminati's larger plan of societal manipulation. Songs like Helter Skelter were interpreted by some as harbingers of chaos and disorder, while Come Together was seen as a rallying cry for unity under the control of a single world order. The use of backward masking, a technique where hidden messages can be heard when a record is played in reverse, became more frequent. Tracks like Revolution 9 were believed to be encoded with phrases like "Turn me on, dead man," interpreted as an acknowledgement of Paul's death and replacement. The Beatles, once a symbol of peace and love, had now become a tool of manipulation, using their platform to subtly guide the masses toward the Illuminati's dark vision of the future. Their transformation from innocent pop stars to occult puppets was complete, and they were now merely instruments in a grander scheme to reshape the consciousness of an entire generation. The aftermath, legacy of darkness. While the Beatles disbanded in 1970, the influence of their Illuminati-controlled era continues to reverberate through popular culture. Their music remains adored by millions, but those who look deeper find the unsettling truth hiding in plain sight. Paul McCartney, real or not, continues to tour the world, but the man on stage is not the same Paul who once charmed audiences in the early 1960s. Some suggest that Lennon's assassination in 1980 was another Illuminati hit, a punishment for attempting to expose the truth. George Harrison's death from cancer in 2001 was similarly viewed with suspicion by conspiracy theorists, as was the strange media blackout surrounding Ringo Starr. To this day, the truth remains shrouded in mystery, and most dismiss the theory as a wild conspiracy. But for those who believe the Beatles were not merely a band, they were pawns in a dark game of global manipulation. Their music a weapon wielded by the Illuminati to control minds, spread darkness and sacrifice one of their own. As the records spin on, the world is left to wonder, what really happened to Paul McCartney?